Follow Famous and Gravy on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Famous and Gravy early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Step into a world where stories come alive. On Audible, there's more to imagine when you listen. Immerse yourself in captivating audiobooks, including master storyteller Stephen King's latest short story collection, You Like It Darker. Let King's chilling tales transport you to realms both haunting and thrilling. With Audible, you're not just hearing words, you're experiencing them. From thrilling mysteries to heartwarming romances, there's a story waiting for everyone. As an Audible member, you choose one title a month to keep from their entire catalog. New members can try Audible free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/WonderyPod or text WonderyPod to 500-500. That's audible.com/WonderyPod or text WonderyPod to 500-500.
This is Famous and Gravy, biographies from a different point of view. Now the opening quiz to reveal today's dead celebrity.
This person died 2010, age 84. In 1993, he published an autobiography that cheerfully and blatantly fabricated events in his life.
George Burns was older than that, and probably long before 2010.
Not George Burns. Before his 18th birthday, he enlisted in the Royal Canadian Air Force and trained as an aerial gunner during World War II, but he was never sent overseas.
Man, I have nothing on Canadian air flight guys.
Yet. All right. His elder brother was Deputy Prime Minister of Canada from 1984 to 1986.
I have no idea. Canadian. No luck there.
Okay.
William Shatner's still alive, so it's not him.
As of this recording, I'm happy to say William Shatner is still with us. He was nominated twice for Emmy Awards, one in 1982 as an outstanding lead actor in a comedy series, and again in 1988 as an outstanding guest actor in a comedy series.
What was I watching in 88? The Jeffersons? I don't know.
Not an actor from the Jeffersons, but that's a good guess. His big break came in 1980 when he was cast as a clueless doctor in the low-budget, big money-making disaster movie parody Airplane. The line that became his catchphrase was, "I am serious, and don't call me Shirley."
Leslie Nielsen!
Is his name Leslie Nielsen?
Leslie Nielsen. Leslie Nielsen, I got it.
Today's dead celebrity is Leslie Nielsen.
Things, fortunately for me, have not turned out to be as important as I used to think they were. My big break began that very day that I woke up and decided I would no longer take myself seriously. And
what day was that?
Well, it was a day, and I can't pin it down. It was 20 years ago, maybe, somewhere like that.
When you say you decided not to take yourself seriously, did you think you'd been taking yourself too seriously?
Yes, I think so. You know, when you have important things to do, those in many cases are, I think, the way we defend ourselves against our feelings of insecurity.
Welcome to Famous and Gravy. I'm Michael Osborne.
And I'm Amit Kapoor.
And on this show, we choose a famous figure who died in the 21st century and present a new narrative. Most biographies focus on legacies and accomplishments, but we are interested in the journey, the process, the experiences. What didn't we know? What could we not see clearly? And what does a celebrity's life story teach us about ourselves? Today, Leslie Nielsen, died 2010, age 84. Category 1, grading the first line of their obituary. Leslie Nielsen, the Canadian-born actor who, in middle age, tossed aside 3 decades of credibility in dramatic and romantic roles to make a new far more successful career as a comic actor in films like Airplane and the Naked Gun series, died on Sunday in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He was 84.
Pretty genius.
You think so?
Yes.
Say more.
I think it perfectly encapsulates the arc of Leslie Nielsen.
The story?
Yes. Yeah. It's new information, though, to me.
Yeah.
Like,
so you didn't know this.
I didn't know this. I didn't know about the pre-comedy life.
You didn't know that he had a kind of like working actor, was able to bring in a steady income for years, but that there was this major pivot with Airplane and the Zucker brothers and all that?
No, I just sort of assumed that he was maybe a stand-up comic that made his way through and became a comedic actor.
That's incredible.
I had no idea. Had I have read this like in 2010, this would have been brand new news to me.
That's so interesting. Okay, so it was not to me. I mean, I knew...
Because you're a PhD and...
No, it has nothing to do with education. I'm a little bit more of a film history nerd. I had seen the Poseidon Adventure, but I also even remember that story of Leslie Nielsen. I don't know how I picked it up. Yeah, MTV News maybe. I feel like I did know this somehow, I think I also knew that he was kind of a mainstay on TV.
Yeah. So I think you're right. I think most people probably knew that story.
I don't know.
I just
maybe
didn't. Certainly, I think people older than us, because we were pretty much kids when The Naked Gun and all were coming out.
Yeah.
And certainly at Airplane, we were babies.
I don't know. I mean, I do. Okay, so let me go back. You said it's pretty genius. I think, yes, to some extent. I actually have a big hesitation with this.
Really?
Only the tossed aside 3 decades of credibility.
Yep.
That's
really the highlighted phrase for me as well.
Yeah, what really irks me about that is it implies agency. It implies that he was like, you know what? I've built all this capital as a working actor in serious and romantic roles. I'm going to cash it all in and do something different. I think he kind of stumbled into this story.
Totally.
The way this is written makes it seem like there's a consciousness and choice and decision that is kind of there. He wanted to do comedy. He was excited about Airplane. And as soon as that pivot happened, he wrote it and milked it for all it's worth.
He describes it more as this was his big break, rather than he threw something away in favor of something that was potentially more risky.
I thought, if they watch too much, they're going to find out that I'm a fraud. But it never turned out that way. They were watching because they had detected in me the same wavelength and humor that they had.
What I do like about that phrase, though, is credibility. Because I think you read this simple arc of serious actor becomes a comedic actor, you assume he sucked as a serious actor, but he was actually pretty good. They compared him to Marlon Brando, contemporary.
Well, and I mean, he had some near misses. He was almost in Ben-Hur. He was up for The Shining. I mean, there were some big deal movies that he was considered.
Yep.
It's hard to get the pulse on just how important or how well known he was prior to Airplane. I feel like he was, for the casual movie-going audience in the early 80s, he was kind of that guy.
Yeah, he was a Steve Guttenberg.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's the comp I'd go with exactly, but sure. Let's get back to this. Tossed aside 3 decades of credibility. You like that.
No, I don't like tossed aside. I like credibility. I agree with your interpretation that it wasn't about agency. It wasn't an act of throwing aside.
Yeah.
I just like the word credibility there.
I think everything else I also really like in middle age. So he's 54, I think, when Airplane comes out.
What a compliment. He's going to live to 108.
Yeah, right. And then they point to Airplane and Naked Gun, and that's actually all you should point to.
Yep. You just like to crap all over Mr. Magoo, don't you?
Actually, we're going to get into this more later. I'm not sure anything else he did was any good. I watched it.
Some of the cameos, I think.
Maybe, but it's a stretch. I mean, the thing is, I would make the case that we feel like he did more, not because he did other great movies, because most of the other movies, even the Naked Gun sequels, are pretty forgettable.
Yeah.
But Airplane and Naked Gun are so rewatchable that it makes it seem like he did more great movies.
Correct.
So I got one other thing I want to comment on, and then let's go right to scores.
Okay.
Canadian born. It is kind of important, right?
Especially, I mean, he's so Canadian. The story and everything, which we're going to get into as this all unfolds.
Were you surprised to learn he was Canadian?
No, I'm not.
I was a little bit. There was something very...
They always surprise us.
I guess that's true.
Surprise Canadian.
You never know.
Yeah.
You just never know. But I don't know. He always sort of presented as very American to me.
Yes.
And so that's why I think I was a little surprised to learn Canadian born.
Yeah, but how Canadian he was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. All right. You got your score?
Yeah, I'm going to go an 8.
Okay.
So despite my saying at the beginning that I thought it was genius, I think, Professor, you actually won me over with the agency argument. So I'm docking 2 for that.
I'm docking 3 for it. I'm going 7. I really considered an 8. That's a pretty big demerit for this, but I think it really matters that if the first line of the obituary is an encapsulation of the story, I'm not sure this is an accurate story. Yeah. I think that there are, blowing with the winds of time and responding to market forces and opportunities come up. And like, I really
market forces.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
It's just funny.
Why is that funny? The market.
You don't think that's funny?
He is a product.
He is a product.
And he exists in the entertainment industry.
Yes.
And there are market forces at play that will select for his qualities at some point.
I just feel like you read The Economist in the bathroom or something this morning, and so you have to throw out market forces.
I don't think I should be insulted by that.
It's great. It's wonderful. Thank you.
So those market forces were at play, and he tossed aside 3 decades of credibility. I don't think that's what happened exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't like that that's how the story is presented. It feels like unnecessary spin. And I think that there's another way of saying in middle age found himself doing comedies or something. I think there's other better verbs here.
I agree.
So I'm giving it a 7. All right, 7 and an 8.
Okay.
Let's go right into it. Category 2, 5 things I love about you. Here, Amit and I develop a list of 5 things that offer a different angle on who this person was and how they lived. Would you like to kick us off?
I've got a bunch, but because of that, I actually want you to kick it off because I want some constraints drawn around mine.
Okay, can we just start with the obvious thing, the late in life career?
Yeah.
But this is how I qualified it. I wrote late in life career success as a result of not taking oneself too seriously.
Which he repeated over and over again.
He did, and yes. I love that about him, right? That I do think that there's something that we just love about his story of this man with a sense of humor was in there all along, and he finally got a chance to let that person out, right?
Correct.
And he was the guy for the moment when these comedies came about.
Comedian is someone who says funny things. Comic is someone who says things funny. So I'm neither. I'm someone who says unfunny things. I say unfunny things in an unfunny way. And somehow it seems to end up funny.
There's a playfulness to it. There's a like funny old grandpa quality to it.
Yeah.
But it sort of gets at a deeper life philosophy thing that if you are seeking love, then you've got to stop looking for love, right? If you're looking for success, then you surrender all outcomes and just like, will you quit taking things seriously? The joys of life flow in your direction. And so, yeah, I mean, he's 54 when Airplane comes out. He's 62 when Naked Gun comes out. It's really late in life success.
Yes.
And it's just such a great story.
Yeah. And it was definitely, I mean, this was my number 1 also, which is kind of why I wanted you to open with it because I could just add to it. And so the words I used were like pivot, phase 2, etc. But I think what my interpretation of what I like about it is what you said of him not taking himself so seriously.
Yeah.
So you think about late in life success or any success, you think about acceleration. And his was more of a deceleration. It's just, I'm not going to take myself as seriously.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be the golden ticket.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty simple. This is a thing that comes up all the time on Famous and Gravy, how much we love these late in life successes.
Yeah.
You know, somebody who, not that he had a bad life or a bad career or anything that was not going great, but it was kind of middling until he turns into an old man and then is completely unleashed.
54 is not an old man.
It's an older man. An older man.
Back then it was. Now it's
still
it is.
No, I know it's close.
The flag is visible.
I'm not calling. Okay, 54, yes, but 60s. I mean, 60s. Are you an old? Okay, here's the question.
Yes.
At what age do you become an old man?
70.
I feel like we're moving the goalpost on this.
We are removing the goalpost.
Is that because we're aging, or is that because of?
No, I think the goalpost is actually moving.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, the white hair makes it look like an old man.
That is totally true. He has white hair syndrome.
Yes. I think that's part of this. Still, so, okay, I retract it. Not necessarily an old man, but definitely second half of life over the hill. I mean, you kind of would have thought, all other things being equal, he was just going to fade into the memory of forgotten Hollywood figure.
Yep.
And it takes this total turn that nobody expected, which is just...
It's beautiful. It's inspirational.
It is. That's the word. It's inspirational. Nobody would have planned this out.
Yeah.
You know? All right, you take number 2.
Okay. I'll go log cabins and apples.
Oh, yes. Okay. I had something like this.
So he literally grew up in a log cabin.
Yes.
Like logs, sod roof, clay floor. His father was posted in like way, way northern Canada and way, way northern Saskatchewan.
Fort Norman is a place where I spent my childhood, and That is on the same parallel of latitude as Fairbanks in Alaska. It's pretty cold, It gets 70 below zero.
We are a few hundred miles outside of the Arctic Circle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he said it was a town of 75, 5 of which were us.
We're his family, yeah.
So that's the log cabin part, like these origins. But he also credits that for being a big part of his sense of humor.
Yeah.
Right? Because you got nothing else in a small, freezing town but to find a way to have joy.
Yeah.
And joy through words and laughter.
It really sounded like with his brothers, too, was sort of where he found that. Because his dad's a pretty hard guy.
Yeah. I mean, his dad was there basically as a member of, ironically, a National Guard police force.
Those origins really surprised me. Yeah. I wouldn't have thought he was like from the sticks.
No way. I mean, a Canadian I can buy, but I'm like, fine, Toronto or Edmonton or something.
Exactly. He's got a worldliness about him. Yes. Enough of one that I didn't think that he came from, town of... There's not even a town. It's like you said, 75 people.
Yeah, it's literally the size of the parking lot outside of this studio.
Right.
So it's that, and the apples is related to that. Is about his brother specifically, who was alluded to in the quiz. His brother Eric became Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, and so I like how from this log cabin, the two apples fell in completely opposite directions of the tree. I think it's very cool when brothers do the same thing. If you have like the Kelsey brothers, welcome to Wondery,
right?
By the way, I think you have like brothers like you and I have that we're quite similar but a little bit different, and then you have these completely different types.
Yeah, totally chose different paths.
I think they're all beautiful for different reasons, but this like way different and hugely successful in different ways is just awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I had this one on my list too.
Okay,
so that's number 2. All right, I hesitated to put this one on, but I'm going to take number 3.
Okay.
The fart machine.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Okay. So here's where it's a little off-putting, right? But first of all, this has to get brought up. He carried a fart machine with him everywhere. At every interview of Leslie Nielsen, he's busting it out and cracking up interviewers and, talk show hosts by pressing the button. And he was delighted by this thing.
Although I will do almost anything I can for a laugh. I said almost.
What have you got there? What is the, hold it, let's show this.
You heard the rude noises that it makes?
Yes, I did.
Nothing but fun. I got that from a man in Oklahoma City, Jack Martin. He was a senior golf pro, and one night he said, Leslie, I'm going to give you something to change your life. I did, too. I've had nothing but laughs.
Look, it is so childish and so dumb, but he's also so delighted by it. Yeah. Leslie Nielsen is so happy to bust out his fart machine.
Yeah, I can see that. As a vehicle for joy, I buy that.
Well,
I sign off on that.
My children have a little sound machine that they get in the car, and it drives me absolutely crazy. But then, when it's really well timed, it still gets me. It's still funny, and it's base dumb humor, but it's on brand for him. So I don't know. Are you going to shoot that one down? Do you not want to go with that?
No, I like it. I like how you spun it into joy.
Yeah. All right. You take number 4.
Number 4, I'd say boisterous language. And this is about Leslie Nielsen himself, not about any of the characters that he played. He used fantastic language. If you watched him in the interviews, I selected a few of my favorites.
Okay.
So he uses the word terrific a lot.
Yeah.
I saw this on both a Pat Sajak show interview, which I think it was Pat Sajak sitting in for Letterman.
Oh,
in a Conan interview.
Yeah.
It was always like, life is terrific. Or this way, I've got this terrific new project going on. It's such a nice word. To Terry Gross, he talked about an upcoming movie. I think it was Naked Gun 2.5. And he's like, it's wondrously dumb.
Yeah.
And my third favorite use of vocabulary was Peter Sagal. So he told a story about directing Naked Gun 33 and a third, and he had a little bit of odds with Leslie Nielsen at first, and then they came around it, and Leslie Nielsen said, you're doing a Herculean job.
Yeah.
And so I love his use of vocabulary as a mechanism for excellence.
Yeah, interesting. I was going to ask about, to what end, but you're talking about in terms of sort of praise and exuberance, and I don't know. I'm trying to double click into some of the examples you've offered here.
Yeah, it's praise, exuberance, but I think it's a next level because these are extremes. And the way that he offers them, and it seems like he offers them genuinely. I love it when somebody can pull off genuine, strong vocabulary.
Yeah.
And because it elevates whatever they're talking about. It elevates the person they're talking to. It elevates the people that are listening to it.
I did actually think a little bit about calling out his voice as a thing I love. It's not on my list, but I think he does have a great radio
Yeah, well,
voice.
let's group that in here because I don't think in a dull voice you can pull off terrific, wondrous, and Herculean. It is packaged in the voice.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I like it. So is that number 4?
That's number 4, so we're at 5.
Do you want another one? I can tell there's more on your end, and I want to hear them.
Yeah. Okay. Crossed institutional barriers through comedy.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So
explain.
I've
Say
got
more.
2 examples for this. They're both Naked Gun examples.
Okay.
So for anyone unfamiliar with Naked Gun, particularly the first one, the plot is he is a police detective. Leslie Nielsen is Sergeant Frank Drebin, and he's foiling a plot for someone to kill Queen Elizabeth. She's visiting America.
That's right.
It largely takes place around a baseball stadium.
That's right.
So 2 things. One, in 2005, the Queen visits Saskatchewan, and there is a gala held, and one could attend for several $1,000s. Guests of honor, Queen Elizabeth, Prince Philip, and Leslie Nielsen.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Oh, I've always wondered about the monarchy's relationship to Naked Gun.
and
I have my answer. Like we've accepted it for what it is.
Totally. Apparently, they've embraced it.
I mean, that was, I think, the first time I learned that England had a queen. Was Naked Gun.
Probably so.
I think I was introduced to the Queen as a figure.
I think there was
a
nursery rhyme that we had to learn.
Actually, the Naked Gun is like, and it's in a way an important movie. I did not know who O.J. Simpson was before Naked Gun.
Yeah.
I did not know who Reggie Jackson was. I didn't know who Enrico Palazzo was.
Thank you, because this is my second institutional barrier.
Okay, great.
So Enrico Palazzo was the name of the national anthem singer, but Leslie Nielsen also played the umpire in the movie, so they confused. The second serious institutional barrier that was broken is when Leslie Nielsen died, ESPN published an obituary for Enrico Palazzo.
No way.
Yeah, I will link to it in the show notes. I will show you immediately after the show, but then I will link to it in the show notes.
I'm so curious to hear the first line.
So here you have 2 like semi-serious things that because of these like such critical iconic role that Leslie Nielsen played, that it actually crossed over these real life barriers between kind of serious institutions and this comedic fiction.
So what do you love about that? Do you love the transgressiveness of it? Do you love the taboo? Like you're not supposed to do that?
I like the arresting of the guard, the downing of the guard for it.
Yeah.
To take the monarchy reference a little further.
Yeah.
But his thing is so funny and so ridiculous and so iconic. It's like we're going to pay it its due.
Oh, that's great. What I really like about it is it does get at the heart of his humor, like of why we find him so funny.
Yeah, because it levels us all down.
Totally.
It's just so simple and so funny that it's something like the Queen is willing to do a gala with him. And Joni Mitchell was at the same gala, by the way.
Is that right?
That out. Or ESPN is willing very rarely to actually do a satirical obituary.
Yeah. All right, let's recap. So number 1, we went with late in life career success as a result of not taking oneself too seriously. That's an important one. I'm glad we called that.
That's everything.
That's sort of everything.
Yeah. Number 2, I said log cabins and apples.
Number 3, I went with the fart machine. Number 4, you said
boisterous language and voice.
Number 5, crossing. How'd you put
crossing institutional barriers.
Crossing institutional barriers. It's a really good list.
It is very good.
All right.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie. All right, let's pause for a quick break.
Worried about letting someone else pick out the perfect avocado for your perfect impress them on the third date guacamole? Well, good thing Instacart shoppers are as picky as you are. They find ripe avocados like it's their guac on the line. They are milk expiration date detectives. They bag eggs like the 12 precious pieces of cargo they are. So let Instacart shoppers overthink your groceries so that you can overthink what you'll wear on that third date. Download the Instacart app today to get free delivery on your first 3 orders, while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Huggies Little Movers. Huggies knows that babies come in all shapes and sizes, and their tushies do too. Huggies has more curves and outstanding active fit. Parents know that there's nothing worse than an ill-fitting diaper, especially for active, wiggly babies. Huggies Little Movers are curved to fit all curves, so babies feel comfy no matter how much they're moving around. And we all know they're moving around a lot. They also offer 12-hour protection against leaks, which is a game changer. Get your baby's butt into the best fitting diaper. Huggies Little Movers. We got you, baby.
Category 3, One Love. In this category, we each choose one word or phrase that characterizes their loving relationships. Before we select our word or phrase, we will review the family life data. So, Nielsen was married 4 different times. First wife, Monica Boyer, 1950 to 1956. Leslie was 24 when they got married, 30 when they got divorced.
She was 6 years older, by the way.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I tried to get ages on most of these. I couldn't find it.
I couldn't find it, but because she was a public figure.
You were able. So she was older.
Yeah.
Interesting. And a calypso dancer.
Yeah.
Which actually took me down a little bit of this is a side note, Maya Angelou rabbit hole, because Maya was also a calypso dancer. And I was like, did Leslie and Maya ever cross paths? They did in the 90s when they were invited to an event at the Clinton White House.
Really? That's what we got to do. We got to do a cross paths special.
Oh my God.
Of the people we've done episodes on.
Yeah, with strings and a whiteboard, and we look like crazy people.
Look like John Nash.
It's not a bad, but I like the idea that Leslie Nielsen and Maya Angelou were in the same space on at least a few occasions. All right. Wife number 2, Alessandra, I think is how you say her name, Ullman, 1958 to 1973. Leslie was 32 when they got married, 47 when they got divorced. They had 2 kids. Brooks Oliver, married 1981 to 1983. Leslie was age 55 at this point, and they got divorced when he was 57. Then finally, wife number 4, Barbary Earl. They got married in 2001, and they were married until his death in 2010. Leslie was 75 when they got married. He died at age 84. There's, I think, a 22-year difference with wife number 4.
Okay.
I mentioned 2 daughters. There's also some stepchildren. This was an unusual one.
It was very private.
It's very private. There's not a lot of information. Anytime he's asked about it in an interview, he kind of deflects and say, well, I'll get it right one of these days, right?
Yeah. And this is a guy who wrote a fictional autobiography.
Right. I mean, actually, researching Leslie Nielsen's life was not easy. There's not a lot out there about him.
Yeah.
And he gave interviews, but most of the interviews he gives are after 1980, where he's transitioned into this comedic figure. And he approaches every interview as if he's supposed to bring forth his sense of humor. Yeah, a little bit. If not being character, like present as a comedy actor or as a comedic actor. And so he doesn't seem to go there very much. I do personally detect a little bit of a coldness, a little bit of a standoffishness, a little bit of fun old grandpa, but you actually can only go so deep with fun old grandpa or something like that.
Yeah, which could just be a form of protection. There's also nothing wrong with that.
Like, no, I'm not criticizing.
It makes our show harder, but everyone's got that right.
I'm not criticizing it necessarily. But the other thing is, you look at all other things here, Amit, and 4 marriages, and the wives look to be getting increasingly younger as he gets older, or there's like a larger age gap. So I gave this a lot of thought, and I actually went back to the log cabin a little bit. I was looking for something that's like trying to capture, that's like maybe a little bit of a cool or cold interior. My word is Arctic wolf.
Okay.
So I went down to Wikipedia and I'm like, I'm going to look up the Arctic wolf. I'm going to read this description from Wikipedia, edited for clarity. You tell me if you hear some Leslie Nielsen in here. Arctic wolf, also known as the white wolf, is a subspecies of gray wolf native to high Arctic tundra of Canada. Unlike some populations that move between tundra and forest regions, Arctic wolves spend their entire lives north of the tree line. It is a medium-sized subspecies distinguished by its smaller size, its wider coloration, its narrower brain case, and larger carnassials. Those are teeth, I believe.
Okay.
Since 1930, there has been a progressive reduction in size of Arctic wolf skulls, which is likely the result of wolf-dog hybridization.
Wow. Okay.
Do you see some Leslie Nielsen in that description?
Yeah, I get it. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
There's so little to say and so little to dig into. It's all guesswork, but there's a little bit of Arctic wolf.
Yeah, we shouldn't extrapolate where there's nothing to available to extrapolate.
Yeah, it's what do we see?
Yeah.
And this is what I see is a little bit of an Arctic wolf. Because there's an elegance, he's attractive. He's a very handsome guy, but a little bit of a loner and exists, north of the tree line and doesn't go below that. So what did you have here?
I went Nobody Knows Anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, which is a nod to William Goldman, an episode that we did because we don't know. We just don't know. And like I said, he's got that right to be protected if you say that maybe there is a possibility of a coldness.
Yeah.
But either way, we don't know.
How does it affect your interpretation of the story? Or does it at all? You know what I mean? Like, so if one of the reasons like we wanted to do a Leslie Nielsen episode. We're excited about this, is that there's this major life pivot where he's like sort of going along and getting cast in roles, but not breaking through. But then there's all of a sudden this watershed. Holy cow, the guy is hilarious if cast in the right movie and in the right part. We love this story. And I think we love it for the late career success. I think also for how important it is to not take things too seriously. I think it also speaks to the Hollywood dream that you show up and you just never know if you're ever going to break. And here's somebody who broke, decades later than you thought he might have.
Yeah.
So does the lack of information about his interpersonal life move the needle one way or another, or does it get back to the nobody knows anything thing?
To me, it makes me a little suspicious that the guy that presented might be a little different than the person at home.
Yeah.
But again, that's speculation, and I don't...
No, but that's how I see that too. And if our intuition is that, then I think that's fine. It just sort of puts things in a little bit of context.
But we should equally give him credit for nobody knows anything.
Absolutely.
I mean, he goes from a log cabin to moving to New York in his 20s, and this is a lot of transitions going on. And as we've talked about, this whole life is about a major transition.
And I mean, I guess my baseline assumption is that anybody who is making a career in LA where the entertainment industry, has all these sort of superficial qualities and culture to it, multiple marriages for a good-looking guy who has some success and the wives get younger, it's a little predictable.
Yeah.
Figures, whatever. And let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay. Category 4, net worth. In this category, Amit and I will write down our numbers ahead of time. We will then look up net worth number in real time, and the person closest to the actual number will explain their reasoning. Finally, we'll place this person on the famous and gravy net worth leaderboard. So, Amit Kapoor wrote down 25 million.
Okay. Michael Osborne wrote down 20 million. We were quite close.
Leslie Nielsen, net worth, 20 million.
Ah, you win.
I know. I'm right on the money.
Yeah.
As it were.
Oh, you said you were worried because now you have to explain yourself.
Now I have to explain how I came up with this number.
Okay.
Well, okay. So I didn't do any of the analysis you often do of comps or anything like that.
Yep.
I have learned that actors are very rarely north of 50 million. So I was tampering it down a lot. He's very, very busy from 1988 to 2005 or so.
Yeah. 1980, right? Arguably. But yeah.
Yeah. But I think he came to be known as a comedic property, right? He had market value in comedy movies.
Yeah.
Starting with The Naked Gun, where people were just going to keep giving him a shot no matter what. My hunch is that he was a lot of fun to work with. And I think that he was a gamer for whatever kind of dumb script was thrown his way.
Yeah.
And these were cheap, kind of easy movies to make, all these parody movies. So it just looked like about $20 million to me.
Oh, that's fair. That works.
And apparently it was. So
market forces.
Yeah, market forces.
Okay,
Thank you.
good.
Thank you. I do know something about market forces.
Yeah.
Can't believe you're still mocking me for using that term.
I'm not mocking it.
There's a little bit of a dip.
There is.
I'm hearing a little insult in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little more.
I know
little.
you get money. You understand money better than I do, but you know what? I'm right today.
Not that well.
Anyway, so
okay.
Where is he on the net worth leaderboard?
So he is actually at the mode of the leaderboard. 20 million is the most common number that we've seen.
Would you like to define mode for our audience?
Yeah, mode just means the most common number in a list of numbers.
Is that right? 20 is the most common?
Well, we've seen through our 80-something episodes.
No kidding. Okay.
Contemporaries in 20 million, Maurice Sendak, Gary Shandling, Tom Wolfe, Gene Wilder, Eddie Money, Sidney Poitier, Rodney Dangerfield, which was just a few episodes ago. So sitting just above that at 25 million would be Bill Paxton, Hank Aaron. Sitting just below that at 16 million, Alan Rickman. So at 20 million, it actually...
Wow, okay, so wait. I don't want to pause on the last one.
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen died with a greater net worth than Alan Rickman?
Approximately $4 million more. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it certainly is consistent with the story we're telling. It's not just late in life recognition of talent. It is late in life material success.
Yeah, and I'll add some data just because people like data. So the first Naked Gun pulled in 152 million, the second 192 million, the third 132 million for a total of 476 million. Add to that Airplane, which made 171 million. So that's a total of $647 million in which Leslie Nielsen was a leading man.
Wow.
That's a big number, but it's not a huge number because he really only has 4 important movies as a leading man, which I think makes 20 to 25 million a reasonable number as opposed to 50 to 100 million. He did a few notable endorsements. The biggest one was called Red Rock Cider, this like Canadian cider that had these legendary commercials along with it. He also did Alamo Rent-A-Car, Arizona Reserve Bank, and Domino's Pizza.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Fantastic. Moving on.
Yep.
Category 5, Little Lebowski Urban Achievers.
They're the Little Lebowski Urban Achievers.
Yeah, the Achievers.
Yes, and proud we are of all of them.
In this category, we choose a trophy, award, a cameo, an impersonation, or some other form of a hat tip that we would like to bring into the conversation. This is a thing you don't know them for award, or if you did know them for it, you forgot about it. Would you like to go first? You'd like me to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
I'm ready to blow your mind.
Here we go.
Okay.
Bring it.
Let's do a little word association and then see if you can just come up with a name here. I'm just going to throw out some words.
All right.
Okay. Dorothy.
Wizard of Oz.
Okay. No. Rose.
Titanic.
Okay. Blanche. Dorothy, Rose, Blanche.
Yeah, wait a sec. Okay. This isn't Streetcar Named Desire.
No.
What am I'm spacing on?
Golden.
Oh, Golden Girls.
Yes. So Leslie Nielsen was on the series finale of The Golden Girls.
No.
He was the last person who was not one of the 4 Golden Girls to actually appear on the TV show The Golden Girls.
No.
So the entire ending of the plot of The Golden Girls, I did not know this, or if I knew this, I completely forgot. The way the show ended is that Dorothy, who was played by B. Arthur, meets Leslie Nielsen, who is a character who is supposed to be one of Blanche's uncles who comes to visit. They're supposed to fake go on a date, but they actually ended up really falling in love. So the entire Golden Girls series ends with Dorothy, B. Arthur's character, marrying Leslie Nielsen, and the house dissolves of the Golden Girls.
That is beautiful.
Yes.
That is perfect.
I know.
Oh my God. I can't believe I haven't seen this.
I can't believe I didn't learn this until like 2 days ago.
I can't believe this isn't in the first line of the obituary. This is not Little Lebowski, sir. This is the Big Lebowski.
This is huge.
Yeah. Wow. Good one. Well done, sir. Well done. All right, my Little Lebowski.
Yes.
This is selfish. You're not going to care about this even a little bit. So
we do have an audience too. It's
have you ever? Well, okay, it's October. We're coming up on Halloween. Have you ever seen the movie Creepshow?
I'm familiar with it, but I don't know that I've seen it.
Well, you should be familiar with it. It has come up on our show before because it was directed by George Romero of zombie movie fame. Check out Zombie Mastermind, and written by Stephen King. Also starring Stephen King. This is the only time these two guys came together. The movie is sort of inspired by 50s horror comics. It's a series of vignettes. It's short stories.
Okay.
There's 5 of them. There's one episode in Creepshow called Something to Tide You Over, starring Leslie Nielsen, Ted Danson, Galen Ross, who you don't know, but she's the female lead in Dawn of the Dead. And apparently even Richard Gere has a small uncredited scene as the man on the TV.
Okay.
I love Creepshow. It is so weird and campy but actually kind of horrifying. And seeing Stephen King and George Romero come together to work on this, like the cinematography of it is great.
Yeah.
And this is Leslie Nielsen after Airplane, before Naked Gun. So he's trending in this comedy direction, and there's even sort of a comedic element to the character. So he's a rich man, and he catches his wife cheating on him.
Okay.
And he, at gunpoint, takes both his wife and her lover separately down to the beach, and he's dug a hole on the beach, and he buries them up to their neck, and then he puts a camera on them, and he's like, the tide's going to come in. You might be able to break free when the tide comes in if you can hold your breath long enough for the sand to loosen. Otherwise, you're going to drown. And he goes home and films this and watches it and drinks and cackles. And then the zombies of these 2 people come and haunt him. And they're covered in seaweed, and it's grotesque and awesome.
Okay.
Happy Halloween.
Still won't see it.
Yeah, it's your loss, sir.
Okay.
Creepshow is a great movie, and I wanted to bring it up today. And I totally forgot Leslie Nielsen was in it, and he's really good in it.
This reminds me of like Rodney Dangerfield and Natural Born Killers.
Yeah,
like
there's a little bit of that. So I did try to watch some Leslie Nielsen movies. I watched Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
Which is actually like a really important sci-fi movie. One of the things that didn't make it into my 5 things, he's credited with perhaps being the very first Trekkie. Did you see this?
No.
So Leslie Nielsen watched the first episode of Star Trek and wrote to Gene Roddenberry, the creator, and was like, this show is fantastic. And Gene Roddenberry had pointed to Forbidden Planet as inspiring a tremendous amount of the storylines in Star Trek. I mean, you look at it and it looks like a proto Star Trek episode. He has like real cred in sci-fi and horror subgenres.
Yeah. And well, he did that Dracula movie too, right? Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Yeah. I mean, these movies are really bad. But yes. Anyway,
So be it.
So be it. All right. Let's take another break.
Hey, podcast listeners. Great news. All your favorite comedy podcasts can be enjoyed ad-free on Amazon Music. Listen to your favorite music plus top podcasts completely ad-free on Amazon Music, included with your Prime membership. Dive into a world of laughs by downloading the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free-comedy. That's amazon.com/ad-free-comedy to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
All right, let's be real. If you're a content creator, blogger, or an entrepreneur just getting started, the last thing you want to do is spend hours building a website. That's where Bluehost comes in. Their AI tools make custom WordPress sites in minutes. No coding, no stressing. You also get built-in marketing and e-commerce tools to grow your business. And with faster loading, you can secure the bag without the lag. It's never been easier to launch your website. Go to Bluehost.com now to get started.
Category 6, words to live by. In this category, we each choose a quote. These are either words that came out of this person's own mouth or was said about them that resonated for us in a certain way. You go first.
Okay. My words to live by are, it was a day. This was an answer to a question that Terry Gross asked him on Fresh Air. So the story that we've been repeating about Leslie Nielsen's pivot from serious acting into comedy is he said, my biggest break was a day I woke up and decided not to take myself too seriously. Something we have alluded to a couple of times now.
Yeah.
And Terry Gross said, what was the day? And he just goes, it was a day. And I like that because it's most of the time, it was just a day. It wasn't an exact moment. Like we talk about these big epiphanies and these big aha moments. That's rarely true. Very often, it's a very gradual type of thing. And we say, a day that I decided to do this. It's never one single day that you really pivot. It's kind of the ship is just turning. And so I like the fact that Leslie didn't say like, oh, this was a day that I woke up and had my coffee and I was having toast. And I was like, that's it. I'm not taking myself too seriously. He's just saying it was a day.
And it's kind of like ambiguous. It's not a day. It was a phase. It was a chapter of life. It was a moment. It was a process.
Yeah, and so I find that a good words to live by in that just sort of it's not a big epiphany, it's not a big aha. The slow turn is very often what begets the big change, and that's why I liked it.
I like that. I like that you're drawing attention to it because it's a small moment that's sort of easily passed by, but you're right. It captures our relationship to decisions and how things come about. It sort of gets back to the tossed aside. It was a day, right? It wasn't like he said, he took all these scripts of serious romantic leads and said, I've had it. Where's comedy for me?
Yeah. And I was particularly proud of it because it does encapsulate the story as well.
Yeah.
Of this, don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
So it works on a couple of levels.
Can we speak to that for just a minute, not taking yourself too seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's good instruction that I need to hear from my friends occasionally. Like, dude, you take yourself a little bit seriously here, right? How do you interpret that as life advice? Or do you, because I don't know. I mean, there are some things I absolutely take seriously. There's some responsibilities. There's things I'm wanting to accomplish. And then there's other places where it's like, I have no power, I have limited power, and let's not overstate what I can and cannot do, what I can and cannot force or materialize or whatever.
Yeah.
So how do you take that comment?
So as life advice, I think it comes from a place of privilege, right? Because when you're talking about it this kind of in a career context, to me, it's sort of like if you're okay, if you're secure enough financially, enough.
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
their baseline.
And you've got some career under you, you're okay.
Yeah.
You don't need much else. Just don't quit accelerating so much. Just kind of enjoy the ride, poke around, and see.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear you put it that way. Taking yourself seriously, it's a nicer way of saying don't be selfish. In
some way.
Which I think is always good advice.
Yeah.
Because we're all self-centered, selfish, humans wandering around with egos, worrying about our own problems most of the time and not thinking about other people.
Yeah.
And that's what taking yourself seriously is. And
Leslie Nielsen had another quote that I almost used, but is a perfect follow-up to what you just said. He said, I have no ambitions. I have no goals. I like people. I'm happy. It's that simple.
That's great.
Yeah.
God, these are really good. I actually found a lot of good quotes for him too. I'll give you mine. I said, this one popped out of me. Doing nothing is very hard to do. You never know when you're finished. which is funny. But I also, like, to me, I heard something about procrastination in there.
Yes.
You know, doing nothing is very hard to do. Like, procrastination is hard. There's the angst inside building and mounting. You're like, I got to get to it. And you also never know when you're finished. You know, I mean, I do think that it is good to reflect and stew on things sometimes, but doing nothing is actually very hard to do.
It is extremely difficult.
Very hard to do. And you never know when you're finished, you know? So I will say, before we move on, I might just, when we put this episode together, insert a Naked Gun quotes montage, because that script is absolutely fantastic.
Okay.
Oh, Drebin, I don't want any more trouble like you had last year on the South Side. Understand? That's my policy.
Yes, well, when I see 5 weirdos dressed in togas stabbing a guy in the middle of the park in full view of 100 people, I shoot the bastards. That's my policy.
That was a Shakespeare in the Park production of Julius Caesar, you moron. You killed 5 actors. Good ones.
It's true what they say, cops and women don't mix. It's like eating a spoonful of Drano. Sure, it'll clean you out, but it'll leave you hollow inside. Thank you, Your Honor. Protecting the safety of the Queen is a task that's gladly accepted by police squad. For no matter how silly the idea of having a queen might be to us, as Americans, we must be gracious and considerate hosts. By the way, I faked every orgasm. It's a topsy-turvy world, Jane. And maybe the problems of 2 people don't amount to a hill of beans, but this is our hill. And these are our beans.
Moving on. Category 7, Man in the Mirror. This category is fairly simple. Did this person like their reflection, yes or no? This is not about beauty, but rather a question of self-confidence versus self-judgment. I didn't think too deep here.
I didn't either.
I see a confident man, an Arctic wolf, if you will. I think that part of the reason we love this story is that it's just not hard to imagine some of the voices of self-doubt. Mm-hmm. Right? As he never quite totally breaks through. He never becomes an A-lister in the first 35 years of his career.
Yeah.
So you have to imagine that between 1950 and 1980, like Leslie is like, man, I hope I make it through. But it's not coming from a place of self-doubt. I think it is luck. I think that's how he understands his story when he does break out as a comedic actor. Yeah. And like he attributes this to the whims of Hollywood. And I got lucky. The Zucker brothers found me. I wanted to do comedy. Here I am, and I can do this. And he milks it for all it's worth. You know, he does however many dozens of dumb movies in the 90s and the 2000s.
Yeah.
And the gratitude that he expresses from that is coming from like, whew, it broke my way. But underneath all of that, I see self-confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. He was a good-looking man.
Yeah.
He really was.
Okay, so this is the funny thing about his career, though, too. You go back and watch all the pre-1980 stuff, it's just hard to see it the same way. You just keep waiting for these dumb gags, and they're not there, but you're almost like laughing at it now.
Yeah.
It reads very differently because of what happened.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
But there's also there's these signs of the masks that he's wearing, you know, that like we've talked about this protectionism.
Yeah.
Maybe. So maybe there is some insecurity.
Here's an icy interior.
Yeah.
You know.
Again, back to the Arctic. It always goes back to Saskatchewan.
It does.
And you know, the 4 marriages, there's some questions there of his own
interpersonal life.
Yeah, we just don't know so much. But when he gave an interview, like we said, very rarely did we sense we're getting 100% his authentic self.
Yeah.
But we do believe that we're getting 100% authentic happiness.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think whatever he's protecting, I'm not sure it's like problematic.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's kind of a question, like, while we may have some qualms with, okay, so there's mystery around his interpersonal life, you could maybe start to hint at, hey, maybe something's not right underneath the surface. There's also a part of me, it's like, even if something's not right, I'm not sure everybody needs therapy.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Leslie Nielsen is a case of like, okay, maybe there's some broken pieces in there and he can never quite put it together with marriage, but I don't know that it's such a problem. Like some people, it's just how they're built. I don't know.
I guess this is where I want to bring up the OJ question.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just got to be a weird thing to live through.
Yeah,
like the third Naked Gun came out 1 year before the OJ murder.
He responded to it.
It's sad. It's not, you know, it is strange, you know, it is, and it's very unusual.
Very unreal.
Huh?
It's very unreal.
But, yeah. Well, the man I had worked with in Naked Gun was charming and witty, and there was nothing ever that would indicate in any way that he could possibly be the person who would do that kind of thing.
And I mean, this is the thing, is like, it's so hard to go back to 1988 in your mind. OJ was funny in that movie.
Oh, he was great.
Yeah. Yes. But we will never be able to watch that movie and be able to laugh at his jokes necessarily. Yes. Very easily, right? I mean, it's such a, it's just such a, I don't know, cloud over the movie, you know, in a way. And you almost have to tell yourself, I watched it with my 10-year-old son, and I was like, remind me at the end of this movie to tell you something about this guy. And we got halfway through the movie. He's like, you've got to tell me or I'm not going to watch the rest of this movie. So I did. I paused it and I was like, so he killed 2 people. And he's like, what? I mean, he just did not know how to process that information, right? How could he? I guess like all of the Leslie Nielsen story speaks to the unpredictability of the entertainment industry. Yeah. And this is just another piece of that.
This is the worst part of it, though. I mean, we're talking mostly about good unpredictability.
Totally. But, it doesn't totally touch him, actually.
But I mean, they were friends, right? They had a working relationship for 7 years over the course of the 3 movies.
But maybe that tells you like how limited the friendship really was. I mean, how close could they have really been?
Yeah, or
Leslie Nielsen's not in the white Bronco,
or the potential sociopath that OJ was. He was that good at hiding it.
Yeah,
but still, I think it's got to screw with the friends.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess that's my point is, for the concept of our show and our sort of interest in fame, I think neither of us want to be famous, and I think anybody wanting to be famous is in dangerous place. What's that Derek Thompson thing that I shared with you, the plain English host? He said something about, what is it about fame? It's getting a 1-star review and everybody seems to want to go for it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this is why, is because it attracts and selects for unpredictable personalities, and trust is in thin supply. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
All right. Category 8, cocktail, coffee, or cannabis. This is where we asked, which one would we most want to do with our dead celebrity? This may be a question of what kind of drug sounds like the most fun to partake with this person, or another philosophy is that a particular kind of drug might allow access to a part of them we are most curious about. Will you go first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Coffee. I think the exterior comes down if it's 101 and it's just coffee. I think actually my theory on Leslie Nielsen is if you throw him the booze or you throw him the pot, that the exterior actually stays up. Because he's so good at keeping it. And I think just actually having a 1-to-1 just kind of chat, I'm like very curious about what it's like growing up in a log cabin and going from that to, receiving Hollywood accolades.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's interesting here is not necessarily that you went coffee, but that you have residual curiosity. Like you want to know more here.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much little public information about him. I just want to know the guy, not necessarily because he's famous, but because he was hilarious.
Yeah.
But I want to know the guy behind the hilarity, which we're trying to do here on the show.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that obviously it was hard. It was
working with very little information. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very hard. And so that's why I kind of want to complete this research with a cup of coffee.
Do you think you could learn something in that conversation, though, that would be valuable? I mean, what do you imagine? And I'm not asking you to project. You just like to see where it goes.
Yeah, I just want to get to know the guy.
Yeah.
Because you only see little tidbits of it here and there.
Yeah. I really liked what you pointed to earlier. It was a day. That says a lot. That's those words to live by. That's a great call out because it's in that subtext that you might actually learn something, right? But if you are curious about the guy, you actually do need to spend time with him. Anybody who's protecting anything, you kind of hang out with them long enough until they accidentally betray themselves.
Yep.
Where they accidentally reveal themselves.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, well, I went in a totally different direction.
Yeah, go for it.
I want to have a glass of scotch on the golf club terrace. So he's a big-time golfer.
Yes,
huge. And he even did some golf parodies. I'm not much for golf, but I do see that is a certain place where a certain kind of person will let their hair down, enjoy sunshine, enjoy the game, and then kind of relax afterwards.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see him use the fart machine a little bit. I think it would just be fun. I think I'd also like to get him in a context and hang out with him where he doesn't necessarily feel like he's supposed to be fun. Right? In the interviews in the 90s and beyond, I do sort of see him performing on some level. So I'd like the humor to come out just a little bit more organically. I bet it's richer.
And through an activity, although it sounds like you're on the terrace, you're not actually on the golf course.
Yeah, but I want to have beers on the golf course and then scotch on the terrace.
Yeah, so
let's get nice and tipsy.
Yeah. And so through an activity, I see that. I see that as a means to kind of get through to him.
Totally.
Yeah,
right.
so
and in his element, someplace where he's comfortable and that he's longing for.
Yeah.
You know?
So I think we're both kind of looking for the same thing. You're just wanting the humor couched around it.
Yeah, but I mean, when I was throwing the question to you a second ago of what would you want to probe him on? What would you want to learn? I'm not sure I would know either, but I would like to have an undirected conversation. Like to hang
just
out
get
and
to
see
know
where it
somebody
goes.
like you get to know anybody.
Yeah, and I mean, my favorite kind of conversations these days always start on the sort of superficial plane, and then somebody does accidentally betray themselves, and I click into that. I'm like, ask about that real quick, and that's when you get into fun territory. Yeah. I'd like to have that experience with Leslie Nielsen on the golf terrace. All right, I think we've arrived. Category 9. The Vanderbeek, named after James Vanderbeek, who famously said in Varsity Blues,
I don't want your life.
In that Varsity Blues scene, James makes a judgment that he does not want a certain kind of life based on a single characteristic. So here, Ahmed and I will form a rebuttal to anybody who's skeptical of how Leslie Nielsen lived. Let's assemble the arguments. Maybe we start.
Yeah, well, we start with the counter argument, I think. And there's not a lot. I mean, there is the question
you can
around
make
the
some stuff up
and
about the marriages and the family life. Being in Hollywood for decades, I don't know. Has
your
some
entire life. I mean,
Yeah.
since age 20-something.
And I also think that if you grew up just shy of the Arctic Circle, I could see a sort of like, I'm never going back. I'm staying in this perfect little climate in this funny corner of Southern California, and I'm going to try and make it based on my charm and looks.
Yeah.
And that is my life plan. And there is, I think we both intuit, appropriately or not, a little bit of an interpersonal deficit. Right? Like, I think he was friends with the Zucker brothers. I think he did have friends in Hollywood, but it just seems like he's in a culture of superficiality.
Yeah.
And that's a knock against.
Yeah.
But let's go.
Case for it. I think this is definitely one of the easier cases for it that we've done.
Yeah.
So the big theme that we've talked about was, the phase 2.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to put that into something that's something to want.
Yeah. More universal even.
Yeah. It's the unknown.
Yeah.
You really got to live out the unknown.
Yeah.
And if you saw your life and whatever we all predict our life going one way and it goes a completely different turn for the much, much better, I mean, there's nothing more beautiful than that.
I think I have a 1B to that because what I hear in your 1A is interesting story. And life is unpredictable, and I did not know it was going to go here, and here we are.
And it gets better where you didn't see it getting better.
Right. My 1B to that is the gratitude that comes along with it. I mean, this guy really does feel like, man, I'm lucky.
Yeah.
I'm lucky. I got to be lucky. I gave up on being lucky, and here I am lucky.
Yeah.
Like I love that. I want that for everybody. And I don't think you have to be a Hollywood star or $20 million net worth death to get that, right? Yeah. I think that part of the whole game here is to see the ways in which we are very lucky and experience them. And he does seem to take that in as much as the Arctic wolf can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Is there more?
Yeah, I think 2 is maybe a 1C even. It's just the mechanism by which the unknown was done was by loosening. It was finding more freedom by
don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. The surrender.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not a bad way to put it at all. Yeah. It's finding success in freedom at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like you're freed from this constraint of how serious you have to take your career and how hard you have to push. And lo and behold, that's where the golden rainbow is.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that's really attractive about this story is that we can kind of see an idea that does feel kind of universal and global in this, like, I have to give something up somewhere.
Yeah.
I have to surrender the right thing. And then when I do, possibilities open up.
Yeah. A third thing I'd say, and this is a hard thing to say as biographers and historians that we may be, is, he maintained that privacy. Yeah. The fact that we couldn't find a lot of things about his marriages and his personal life, there was a lot that we could intuit by what other people said and other people saw, but that's pretty damn good to be that successful and still have that secondary life that's still your own.
And I do think comedy deflects. I mean, the fact that he put out a biography that is completely fabricated, where he's like talks about his marriage to Liz Taylor and winning the Nobel Prize for acting. He's got some really good stuff in there. In a way, it both like acknowledges the curiosity of an audience and diffuses it. I was going to go also as another argument, maybe. I think it's always interesting to me when comedy endures. Airplane came out in 1980. It is still hilarious.
You'd better tell the captain we've got to land as soon as we can. This woman has to be gotten to a hospital.
A hospital? What is it?
It's a big building with patients, but that's not important right now. Tell the captain I must speak to him.
Naked Gun in 88 is still hilarious. A lot of comedy doesn't hold up that way. And okay, O.J. Simpson was involved, and maybe that makes it a little problematic.
Yeah.
But I always feel like whenever a great comedy has a long shelf life, there's something underneath that. And maybe it's your thing number 5, crossing institutional sort of boundaries. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's something about that humor and that aesthetic that's still sort of exciting in the sense that these then these boundaries we have are all just made up. Like the life is just,
and then they are dissolving before our eyes as well.
Right. Well, indeed. And I don't know. It's so much of it's just perception, right? And so to turn that into humor, I think does shine a light on the ridiculousness of it all.
Yeah.
And that's a hell of a legacy.
Yeah. And he lived 40 years after Airplane came out, and he got to receive a lot of that joy back. You know, he talked about it. People ask for autographs all the time saying, please sign it. Don't call me Shirley.
Yeah.
And, that can be annoying to a certain extent, but you're also receiving that joy back continuously for 40 years since that movie.
I mean, I think part of the having a later in life kind of break is that kind of feel like you earned it. That's how it plays out. And so you're happy to sign those autographs.
Yeah, totally. I said 40 years. I meant 30.
Whatever.
Okay. So wrap it up?
Yeah, I think so. We actually said a lot here in the case for. It's a very compelling case for.
Yeah.
But we said late in life success born out of not taking yourself too seriously.
Yeah, and gratitude.
We also said maintaining privacy. We said comedic legacy.
And with that, receiving joy back.
That's enough.
That's plenty.
So do you want to do this?
Yeah, I'll do it. James Vanderbeek, I'm Leslie Nielsen, and you might want my life.
A rapid fire round. Plugs for past shows.
This gives me Angela Lansbury vibes.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it's the opposite way, how she was like this charismatic, sometimes humorous, sometimes loud actor, and ends up being sort of a soft, silent one.
Yeah.
And it's a reverse Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, Amit. That's a good one. All right. I had originally thought Norm Macdonald because the similarities are tremendous. I'm going to go Alex Trebek just because I like great Canadians.
I do like great Canadians.
So check out Quintessential Quizmaster and Dame Detective. We'll link to them in the show notes. Here is a little teaser for the next episode of Famous and Gravy. Months before he died, it was reported that he was working on a memoir and a documentary. He said, quote, "Today it seems to me a lot more difficult to stand out. If you want to be weird, good luck."
Huh. Somebody weird who died in 2023. I mean, Weird Al is still with us.
Famous and Gravy listeners, we love hearing from you. If you want to reach out with a comment, question, or to participate in our opening quiz, email us at hello@famousandgravy.com. In our show notes, we include all kinds of links, including to our website and our social channels. Famous and Gravy is created and co-hosted by Michael Osborne and me, Amit Kapoor. This episode was produced by Megan Palmer with original music by Kevin Strang. Thanks, and see you next time.
Follow Famous and Gravy on the Wondery app. You can listen to more episodes early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Before you go, tell us about yourself by completing a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.